And we're going to do that by examining a seriously foundational text, Jeremiah 29:11. If you've ever found yourself wondering about the whole idea of a master plan or how the architecture between a creator and their creation is historically understood, well, you're absolutely in the right place. Let's map out the logic of this text, step by step.
The source material kicks off with this incredibly powerful blueprint. Notice how the text emphasizes a creator who possesses absolute certainty. The wording here is absolutely crucial. It says, "I know." It doesn't say, "I hope" or "I guess." The author highlights this to signify total preconceived knowledge, and those thoughts, they're specifically anchored in peace, which really sets up this foundation of comfort and absolute design from the very first line.
Okay, let's jump straight into Section 1, the promise of a plan.
The author brilliantly illustrates this concept using a human analogy that we can all relate to. Think about a father who is sketching out a future for his unborn child, mapping out potential schools, training, what they might desire, all before the kid is even born. Obviously, the child knows literally nothing about these blueprints. Well, the text compares this directly to divine foreknowledge. Because God existed before forming mankind, the argument goes that he knows us better than we know ourselves, having already drafted an expected end for our entire existence.
That brings us right to Section 2, the inventor's intent.
To make this somewhat abstract theological concept a bit more concrete, the text gives us a rapid-fire list of human inventions. Think about it. From a simple little cup to a massive, complex airplane, there is a universal rule at play here. Every maker intrinsically knows the intended purpose of their creation. I mean, the engineer of a pen knows it's for writing. The designer of an aircraft understands exactly why it was built. It's built right into the design.
Drawing from that list, we arrive at this core logical conclusion. This is the text's central theological argument. If the manufacturer of a highly complex vehicle understands its purpose implicitly, then it stands to reason that the creator of the heavens, the earth, and humanity certainly understands us far better than we understand ourselves. The inventor's intent is basically baked right into the DNA of the creation.
Which takes us to Section 3, the danger of independence.
Now, the author points out a super common human tendency. We've all probably thought something like this. I will do whatever I want, I'll live however I choose, I don't need God. It's a total rejection of any divine planning in favor of complete independence. But within the framework of this specific text, tossing out the inventor's design is framed as a highly dangerous approach, one that actually structurally weakens our lives.
Just look at the stark contrast established here. On one side, we have human understanding. The text argues that humans often just blindly rush through life, chasing these temporary desires that ultimately lead to a chaotic collapse. Kind of like building a house without checking the blueprints first. But on the other side, God's ways represent a higher, illuminated wisdom. According to the source, this wisdom clearly sees the end from the beginning, literally every consequence and blessing, before it even happens.
Because there is such a vast difference in perspective between short-sighted humanity and an all-knowing creator, the text argues there are really only a few logical responses. If God's wisdom is indeed that much higher, well, it simply makes sense to listen, seek his direction, follow his word, and pray for guidance. The source frames this not just as some religious duty, but actually as the most logical, rational step a creation can possibly take.
Moving on to Section 4, the potter and the clay.
The author asks this really poignant rhetorical question, drawing from some broader biblical themes. Can the thing formed say to the one who formed it, "Why have you made me this way?" It's a pretty direct challenge to the modern mindset that humanity has the capacity, or even the fundamental right, to question its core design.
And the crucial point here is this. Just imagine a lump of raw, formless clay trying to dictate its shape to an artisan. No way, right? The text argues that humans are the clay and God is the potter. The potter alone decides the beautiful design and holds the master plan. The idea is that the creation has to yield to the hands of the ultimate designer if it truly wants to fulfill its intended purpose.
And that leads us to our fifth and final section, the path to reconciliation. First up here, the source introduces a rather urgent reality. Life on Earth is temporary. The author reminds us that, ultimately, everyone is going to step onto the scales and answer to God for whether they trusted the Creator's blueprint or just chased their own understanding. It definitely adds a heavy layer of accountability to this whole concept of design.
Now, this is where the theological role of Jesus Christ is introduced. He is presented as the essential bridge spanning the gap,
really the ultimate solution. Through him, the author argues humanity can receive forgiveness and be completely restored to that original, beautiful architecture of purpose that we talked about right at the beginning.
To make this actionable, the author lays out a very specific step-by-step roadmap. 1. Come to Jesus. 2. Receive him. 3. Trust his plans. And 4. Allow him to direct your steps. This is the source's definitive method for realigning your personal life with the grand architecture of God's master plan.
So, what does it actually look like to maintain that alignment on a daily basis? Well, the text provides some practical habits: seeking direction through the Word, following through prayer, obeying through how you live, and crucially, this is a big one, believing that his plans are inherently good. By trusting these steps, the text assures us that we'll be constructed into those thoughts of peace in the expected end that Jeremiah 29:11 promises.
As we wrap up this explainer, the source material leaves us with a profound philosophical tension. Are we trusting God's thoughts for our lives, or are we trusting our own understanding? It challenges us to look at the blueprints of our own lives and really ask ourselves, who is actually holding the pen? If you are the invention, are you fighting the inventor's intent? It is an incredibly powerful question to ponder. Thank you so much for joining me as we mapped out this text today.